there's this itch in a part of my brain that I keep trying to scratch to have it go away, and it's not going away. And I want to share that with you, and this being the last podcast of 2016. I mean, I had to think about what year it was even. Like, is it 2016? Wait, or is it 2017? I mean, maybe this is the thing that happens to brains in their mid 40s when you have a family and a marriage and a company and things just keep moving faster and faster. So that was one of those moments. But I want to share something with you that is not going away, and I've been talking to a lot of people over the last few weeks, and it's this theme that keeps coming up that I think is going to hurt a lot of people, and unfortunately, it's going to hurt the people who can least afford to be hurt. Hey everybody, this is my weekend podcast. This is RC Peck. In fact, it is my last weekend podcast for the year. And so many interesting things are happening in 2016 or have happened in 2016. And the same reason why these interesting things have happened in 2016 are the very same reason why the last 16 years have felt very unstable or unsettling to people. But there's this one idea that keeps coming back, this one thought in my brain that keeps coming back, I keep wanting to scratch it, but I can't seem to. And it's this idea of this conservative investing idea. And so I wanted to get a definition off the internet. So conservative investing is an investing strategy that seeks to preserve an investment portfolio's value by investing in lower risk securities such as fixed income and money market securities, often blue chip or large cap equities. Well, now, if you haven't, go look back at last week's podcast because I talked about how blue chip or large cap or dividend producing, they are believed to be safe. And yet in last week's podcast, I showed you a price chart of what happened to them in the 2008 global financial crisis. In fact, I showed you a price chart of safe large cap dividend producing stocks, and they fell 55%. So that doesn't feel like a way to preserve my portfolio's value when something falls 55%. And the point of me bringing it up last week is things are changing. And what I think used to be conservative or aggressive or moderate, and those are very weird terms and very weird words. And if you followed me for any amount of time, you know that I don't ask people those, or sometimes I do just to get an idea of what they kind of self-describe themselves as. But my concern is this whole idea of conservative being safe, this idea of fixed income right here, fixed income being safe, even money market securities being safe, because even if you have your money in cash, and I know not everyone lives in an area where inflation is probably 5% a year like it is in Silicon Valley or Manhattan or some other places around the country and the world, but there most likely is inflation going on if you have kids or medical costs. And even if your money is in cash, it is losing to, what that dollar can buy you over time. But what I want to focus on in this conversation with you is just this fixed income. So look at this price chart here. This is a price chart of 4 fixed income investments: municipal bonds, muni bonds, 10-year U.S. Treasuries, 30-year U.S. Treasuries, and corporate bonds. And this is a price chart of returns over the last 1 year. I'm getting over a cold, guys. That's why my voice sounds like it is. Now, look at what they did this year. Now, in all fairness, this price chart does not include dividends being reinvested because the people who need the dividends most, they're not reinvesting them. They're taking them to live off. So I think this price chart has a lot of accuracy to it. Now, muni bonds are a place that people put the money because they're safe and they'll get them back. And the default rate on munis, 10-year treasury, and 30-year treasuries are, well, first of all, 10-year and 30-year treasuries have never defaulted. And the default rate of municipal bonds in this country is incredibly low. But the point is, look at here that the year-to-date return and this is the last trading date of the year. I'm recording this on Friday. For muni bonds is negative. For 30-year treasuries is negative. For 10-year treasuries is negative. So they're all negative. So this year, a year of a lot of disruption and instability, you have three of the quote-unquote safest investments are all negative. The one that is positive is corporate bonds. And this is interesting because it's very likely that the next I want to be as clean as I can be here with my language. The next crash, the next correction, the next drawdown, but the next large negative move downward will probably come in the corporate bond market. And yet, of all these four fixed incomes, it's the one that looks the best this year, up almost 3% for the year. But the point is, these are supposed to be safe. This is where people are going who have run out of their earnings runway or have very little earnings runway left. They are putting their money in munis in 10 year and 30 years in corporate. Right? They're putting their money in fixed income because that's what you do when you're a conservative investor. You put it in fixed income. But here's my concern. Here's the yield on the 10-year treasury going back to 1954. Right? So the yield went higher, 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 higher until 1982. And since 1982 until where we are today, it's been, generally speaking, falling, right? Not every day, week, month, or quarter, or year, but it's been falling. And then I highlighted this section down here because there is a very good likelihood that the yield on the 10-year treasury is bottoming. Well, if it's bottoming and the yield is going to start going up, that means the price is going to start going in the opposite direction. It's going to start falling. Well, that's a problem if you don't have any more earnings runway, or you've run out of earnings runway, or you only have a couple more years of your earnings runway. Right now, I know earnings runway is not a term that's thrown around. That's my own term. But basically, this is people over the age of 60, right, or 65, who don't have or very few years left of their earnings runway. What they're doing is putting their money in areas that are conservative, in fixed income, in blue chip, in large cap dividend producing stocks. And I actually believe this is going to be the epicenter of the next wipeout. And I just, guys, I want to be really clear here. I'm not trying to be hypey or the sky is falling. I'm not. And I'm not saying this is the absolute bottom here. I'm saying I believe the yield is bottoming. It may have bottomed. I don't know. But it definitely looks like it is bottoming. And that's going to be... it's going to be a disaster, I think, for a lot of people over the age of 60. Now, just one last price chart that I'll show you, which is the same price chart, not the exact same, but the same price chart I showed you just a moment ago. I just zoomed into the last 20 years of the yield on the 10-year treasury. And so you can see, I mean, we can move back and forth between 1.4 to 3% for a while. And the width of this, I guess it's kind of like a square, is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 5.5 years. It's been in this sideways channel for 5.5 years, depending on where you start the channel. So we can bounce around in this channel for a while, and maybe we go around it, stay in it for 5 more years. I don't know. But even if we did stay in it for 5 more years, right, and the yield on the 10-year treasury kind of stayed between the 1.5 and the 3%, okay? Well, cost of living is still going up. And so there's going to be an erosion of what that money can buy in that fixed income. And even though people are going to look at their accounts and go, well, the dollar amount isn't changing that much, what they're not going to see is what that dollar can buy. And one thing that seems pretty clear to me is with the new president coming on board, that looks like, we don't know, I don't know, you don't know, nobody knows, but that we may start to see some inflation. If he gets his way and he wants to start rebuilding the infrastructure of this country, that's going to create inflation, which is going to make prices go higher. So even if the yield on the 10-year treasury does bounce between 1.5 and 3, if we start to get inflation again in this country, then the people who can least afford it are the ones who have, run out or running out of their earnings runway, people over the age of 60. And that is my concern. And that is a concern I have when I hear people talk about they have a conservative approach or they're being conservative. Because, since 1982, that kind of worked out. In fact, buying bonds in the largest bond bull market in U.S. history, that was a pretty good idea. The problem is they don't know anything else, and their advisors don't know anything else, and the people who taught their advisors don't know anything else, right? Because from 1982 till today, that's all we've ever known is yields going lower and bond prices going higher. But we do know that will reverse someday. And I believe that possibly is happening right now. So what's the takeaway? The safest thing, let's talk about safe. Let's not talk about conservative or moderate or aggressive. Let's just talk about safe. The safest thing you can do is find a stable uptrend. Not for the day, not for the week, but where is the stable uptrend? Find the stable uptrend. That's the safest thing you can do. The other safest thing you can do is following a rules-based strategy, a rules-based system, which, by the way, should have something to do with stable uptrends. And then lastly, a huge acknowledgement to your own behavior. We have over 200 known biases about our brains that go against our ability to grow money properly. Even if you know them, it doesn't help. There are ways to get around these behavioral biases that hurt our money, but you first got to acknowledge them. And one of the things that I heard over the last few weeks of talking to people on the phone, some people aren't even there yet to acknowledge that their own behavior is the thing that is hurting them. They're still in a place of, well, that person told me this, or RC told me to buy gold, so I put 70% of my money in gold and I leveraged it up 15x. Right? That is a behavior. Right? Another person would say, hey, I'm going to put 10% of my money in gold and I'm going to buy a 1x leverage. That also is behavior. So it's behavior that really determines our outcome more than anything. But one of the safest things you can do is get that stable uptrend and get that rules-based strategy. Hey guys, this is just another step in helping you protect your portfolio and your future. Until next time, this is RC Peck. Hey guys, I started building an investment tribe on Facebook, a place where I can talk about the science of what really works, a place where there is no noise. And when I talk about the noise, I mean that the silliness of the pick of the day, the pick of the week, the pick of the month, the silliness of having your dopamine shot to the roof because of that next stock pick and what do we got to do next, and the sky is falling and it's the worst start to the year and what are you going to do about that? And I'm going to be posting great content to it throughout the week to help you move forward with your portfolio. Just not, oh, that was interesting what happened this week. It isn't about what's interesting that happened this week. I understand our brains are addicted to things like that. But I want to talk to you about what really works based on science, based on evidence. And that is the tribe that I'm building on Facebook. And so parts of you may be interested in that, and when they are, go ahead and sign up. It's free. We do have to approve you, but it is a free investment tribe that I am building. So you guys, thank you so much for being in my world. In 2016 and 2017 is going to be a great year. You guys take care.